I like the insight that you call back to when you're saying, can we find a quote? Can we find a mission statement? Because what you're seeking out is, I have something I need to say, but it has to be the truth. So can we make sure we're not saying something we can't back up or projecting something that we're not as a company, but we still have to be toothy and differentiated in this commoditized space, which we all find ourselves in as you're thinking about that. And then you look today and you're saying, okay, well, when I have that, now I have the complication that we talked about at the start, where there's so many different channels and I have to show up at events and I have personas and email marketing and industry applications and internal and external comms and increasingly complicated SEO landscape and product marketing, all these buckets to fill with content. And as marketers, we're drowning because we're not built necessarily to have that level of collaboration. If you look at any major marketing organization, all of those things sit in different places and everybody's just doing their own thing. And very rarely is everybody pulling on the threads of the same message. So as you're thinking about these umbrella creative strategies, has your approach to creative in this multifaceted environment that we operate in changed? I think if you look back, you mentioned being in advertising. It was easy to create a brand position 10 years ago. You create a really interesting spot, you run it as much as possible, and that's who you are as a brand. Today, that doesn't exist. It exists, but certainly not at the magnitude it used to. So, how do we need to reimagine a creative strategy in this multifaceted world so that we actually can present ourselves in a way that is, I need my whiskey to stand out on the shelf, to your point. How do I do that in a world like this?
I think when you are so fragmented and a lot of your spaces are small and attention is in high demand and you're going to get 2 seconds of somebody's time, it's even more important now that your position is very clear and able to be understood in those 2 seconds, those two words. Like you said, there have been times when every brand had 30 seconds to get their position across. The best ones didn't need it. The 1984 Apple Think Different ad, Think Different. Everything that led up to that was setting up that and was communicating that point, but they didn't need 30 seconds to get that brand position across. There have brands, I think, now that are still trying to communicate a position that takes too long than the time they have. And that is likely a product of not doing the heavy creative strategic work up front to know that in those moments when you only have 2 seconds, it's going to work. And so I would say that brand strategy has always been very important, but when you have to make so much more content and the quantity is high and the demand for attention is high and the amount of time that people are going to give you is extremely low, you have got to be very crystal clear and breakthrough in what you're communicating.